TV.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Mom and Pop Eateries of Grey Bruce. I'm your host, Rob Leonard. It's a historic day for Mom and Pop Eateries of Grey Bruce. It's the very first time that we're actually going to do a part two with a guest because we just didn't have enough time to get all of the information in from the week before. And Theo Rallis, you did such a fantastic job. We had to have you back a second time.
Thank you so much, Rob. I thought I did a terrible job, but people tell me it wasn't that bad.
I tell you what, I watch my shows each week. I like to watch the premiere of them on Sunday nights just to, and I wish I hadn't been. I'm my own worst critic, I'll tell you. I could have done this and I shouldn't. Anyway, but yeah, I still like to give it a watch each week. So now to refresh everybody's memory, Theo Rallis and his family, mom and dad, were the owners of the Village Square restaurant that was in the old Grey County Mall in Owen Sound. And Theo gave us a great history on his family last week. Now, this week, we're going to talk about what happened after the restaurant. So, Theo, the restaurant is done. And so what's next? Rallis Olive Oil. And so let's take a look at the. I'm sorry. let's take a look at the next chapter in the story of the Rallis family.
Sure. So my grandparents passed away, and they left my dad our orchards in Greece. And my dad wasn't doing anything with them in the beginning, but then he decided to start farming again and making olive oil. So he was doing that for a couple years. Steve and I, my brother, Steve was insistent that we find a way to press colder than cold pressed. Like, we have to get as cold pressed as humanly possible. So the less heat, the olive oil stays healthier, higher in antioxidants. It's just so much better for the body. So my dad was doing this at this time, and we had gone to Greece. We had seen the process, and these things take time to sort of ferment in the brain. So one day I'm driving to work. Oh, and at this point, my dad is now selling the olive oil at our restaurant in Sauble Beach at Nick's, doing farmers markets, doing the Katy market. And if some people remember, it was the old square bottle, and it was amazing oil. So I'm driving one day to work, my engineering job, and I'm going to preface this because it was an amazing six-figure job, fantastic one, working in the U.S. And I just, at that moment, had the epiphany, I know how to make the olive oil colder using ice. And so I pull over, I call my boss, I tell him that I quit. And at this point, I then call my wife, Jen, and give her the great news that I just quit my job.
And I don't know about any man that, has to say to his wife, honey, I just quit my job. I don't know if that always goes over really well.
No, you know what? It was, there was this really long, awkward pause. But, what was great was at that point, I'm like, okay, well, I need to obviously build now something. I need to do this. So I went back to Owen Sound, to Sauble, worked at the restaurant, and spent the entire summer building a brand, a plan, and an idea, and a bottle of how I was going to get this launched and what we needed to do. And and that was a long, arduous summer trying to build the entire brand like that. So
okay, so go ahead. Yeah.
No. So the next part was, well, now we have to sell this, because there's two different pieces to it, right? There's the small family mom and pop, right? And I wanted, because I knew this oil was so incredible, and what I was going to do to it from an ice pressing perspective was greater. So I just wanted to get this brand out there. So the first thing anyone would do is I decided to call Canada's top chef and let him know that I make the world's best olive oil. I mean, what could go wrong, Rob?
Well, I'm going to take a step back just for a second because that's how we ended off the last shows with the story we're going to tell next. But when you talked about the olive oil being at the Salvo Beach location of Nick's Food Works,
Yeah.
it immediately clicked in my mind. I remember my wife and I went there for lunch one day, and I'm a meat and potatoes guy, but I had a Greek salad, and there were bottles of the olive oil on display in the restaurant. Your dad was selling it from there. And I'll tell you what, his Greek salads were amazing to begin with, but he was using that olive oil on those salads. And man, it was so light, and it was just the best olive oil I'd ever tasted. So yeah, you just clicked that in my mind. The old mind sometimes doesn't work as great as it does, but
Right.
but you reminded me of that. So all right. You're talking about Chef Mark McEwen, and if anyone watches the Food Network, you will know that Mark McEwen is arguably Canada's #1 celebrity chef in the country. He's just incredible. And I shared a little story with you. I had a venture into entrepreneurship back in the 90s. Actually created a baseball board game, and we put it to market. And we were at the huge toy show in Toronto. And the head buyer for Hudson Bay Company, the guy looked like Colonel Sanders. He was, the string tie, the whole bit with the mustache. But anyway, he comes to our table. He spent a great amount of time with us and giving us advice. But the one piece of advice that he gave me that stuck in my mind, and he said, let me quote this. He said, "Never be afraid to ask anyone for anything. The worst thing that could happen is they could say no, but never be afraid to ask anything." So this is the segue into the story you're going to tell us about Mark McEwen.
Well, yeah. So it's, obviously I left a message, called Mark, left a message. And then one day, it was about 20, 30 days later, I'm walking my daughter Gracie to school, and the phone rings, and it's Mark. And it was hilarious because he just said, "So, is this Theo?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "So you make the world's best olive oil?" And I said, "I do." So we set up a meet and greet at one in Hazelton in Toronto. And I obviously, I had done a lot of research about Mark. And I think the one thing that anyone that we've partnered with, so private label for, whoever it is, we only want to work with companies of individuals who are like-minded, who are giving, who are, people who just want to give. And so it's amazing all the altruistic things that Mark does. And so sure, he's a top chef, but he was also all these other things. And so we met, and the funniest part was I didn't know this at the time, he was opening up a gourmet store, which is now, McEwen Foods. And I had designed for him the private label bottle that I wanted to do, and it was identical to the brand that he had already built. And he just kept staring at that, and he kept eating the olive oil, and he kept staring at the bottle, and he kept talking to my dad because both of them had worked at the Intercontinental Hotel. That's where they started. And so at the end of it, he said, "Let's do it." And that was it. It's a handshake. And now, what is that? 13 years later, we've been private labeling for him. And what's funny is he intimidated me then, and he still intimidates me, which is, he's just every time I see him, and, he's such an amazing, good person. And it's been a fantastic relationship, private labeling for them. And it was the first private label customer we had.
Okay, so now you talk about, and I know again from my venture into entrepreneurship, the marketing end of things, and you have a great product. You know that it's, you have a great idea. Now you've got to get it out there. Now you have to build the brand. So take us on that journey. And some of the, I know some of the answers already, but I can relate to that with what we had to do, and it is not easy. So. Start with the journey in Owen Sound.
It's one of those things that I grew up with an entrepreneur dad, right? And so he would always tell me the story of Onassis and going into a hotel and a person shining his shoes. And at that time, we'll just use, €1 or $100. and or 100 euros. And so after the guy was done shining his shoes, he put his hands behind his pocket, his back, and said, "You could either take your €1, or you can take what's behind in my hand." And so the person took the euro because he knew, I'm at least going to get a euro because I could get nothing, because in one of those hands there was nothing. And he looked at that person and said, "You're going to be poor for the rest of your life." And so these are the stories I grew up with. So what do? Jen and I max out our credit card, head to the fancy food show in DC, and in the Canadian Pavilion, which was great. And suddenly we are cooking alongside the ex-White House chefs. We're cooking with, at that point, the head chef for Vice President Biden. And we end up winning 2 gold medals, which was best raw food and best olive oil of the show. And if you were at the show, it was incredible how many products were there.
That is absolutely incredible. What a story. And to win on American soil is a great thing too. The market in the United States for it, and that really, like, that absolutely helps your case when you go to market your product. Now you've got Mark McEwen on board. As I said, probably Canada's #1 celebrity chef in the country. Now you've gone into an environment in Washington, D.C., and getting that opportunity to present your product, then winning 2 gold medals. You guys must have been heroes back in Owen Sound.
You know what? That's I'm glad. Yeah, that's when everything changed. Everything changed because the Sun-Times ran an article. The Windsor Star did an article, the Globe and Mail. I mean, if you check the Windsor Star and the Globe and Mail, you could still see the articles and the videos. The Windsor Star one is fantastic because it shows me talking about the olive oil in the process, and Gracie's beside me, as we were bottling it back then with just our little 2-banger machine. And she's so cute. And we weren't knocking on doors anymore. And suddenly everyone was calling us to be a part of a festival, a show. And it's amazing how overnight we became celebrities. I mean, my dad, whenever he would go to the Owen Sound Farmers Market, he would absolutely be, mobbed by everyone who had read the article. And I think the best part about it was how happy everyone was for us, especially in our hometowns. And it was just unbelievable. That was the first step. And then the second step was all of the people who came forward and helped us, introducing us to celebrities and other celebrities, and just helping the brand just explode. And of course, I can't diminish the biggest part, which is, and you know this, Rob, when you build a business or a brand, you just have to hit the bricks. You have to hit the street and get your name out there. And there wasn't a single show or event that I didn't do. My dad was still selling out of the restaurant. My brother Steve is selling out of his clinic. And, and I told you the story, but it's such a great story because it defines everything. So I was averaging 70,000 kilometers on my diesel Grand Cherokee, per year, just going from show to show. And we would do 6 farmers markets in the summer per week, 4 on weekends. And it was funny because, I still vividly remember the Jeep Grand Cherokee is completely loaded with olive oil boxes and olives. It's so much that the wheels were almost rubbing because there was so much weight. And, it's 5 a.m. I carry Nick and Gracie out to the car because they're still so little. And Jen has a change of clothes for them. We show up to the farmer's market, and it's and I told you this and wrote this. I didn't realize we were raising gypsies because as soon as they saw the farmer's market, their eyes light up, and they started selling and attacking way better than I could have ever done.
Isn't that great, though? It becomes a family event. It's something that's going to live on in those kids' minds as a great memory as they get older. But to see that enthusiasm, it's got to absolutely make you excited as well. You may be more business-like, but you see that excitement of the kids, and they want you to succeed. They want the family to succeed so bad. That in itself is worth the journey, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I think back, because we did the first series about the restaurant itself, I remember being tortured, absolutely tortured in that restaurant, working from night and day, whether it was dishes and then, of course, moving into the kitchen and, running the line. I'm 14 years old and I'm absolutely running the line, which is crazy. And those are the memories that stay with you, right? And for my little guys, they're always going to have these torture stories from their mom and dad dragging them to farmers markets.
Well, and the thing is, if you hadn't have done that at 14, you wouldn't have been ready for those DC chefs. Think about that, right?
Absolutely, right? Because when you start talking to chefs, you have to be able to speak their language.
Exactly, and yeah, as you tell the story about loading up the car and everything, and ours was a baseball board game, so it was a little lighter and easier to pack. But at that time, luckily for us, the Blue Jays won the World Series. We started selling in April, and the Blue Jays won the World Series that year, so everybody was an instant baseball fan. But we were using the collector cards were such a big deal at that time, and there were card shows going on everywhere. So every weekend it was, as you said, loading the car full of games and heading off to these shows. And you know what? People see it as maybe just standing there all day long, but it is really taxing on you to. You got to keep talking to everybody that comes up to your booth, and you're selling for the entire time you're there. So that in itself really is a strenuous activity.
Oh, it's exhausting. People don't ever realize because, you're giving your energy to individuals, right? It's you're coming up to my booth and you might have had a rough morning or a rough day. You want to see me. My job is really to elevate your mood, to help you feel better, to try some olive oil, try some of our products, and you're constantly giving and giving. And by the end of it, you're absolutely spent and exhausted. And it's great because now, I've got my nephews, Marcus and Nicholas, and especially, last year with COVID, my parents didn't come home, which was so tough, but they were able to, pick up the torch and move forward with, doing the farmers markets and helping pay, their way to school. And I guess this year it'll be Gracie's turn to pick up the torch as well and do some of these markets, although it's becoming harder and harder for us to actually find time to do them.
Okay, so okay, we got the Mark McCune story. We've got Washington, just great stores, and the farmers markets, everything else. Any plans to get into the retail sector, or is that something you're not really interested in with the brand?
Oh, and when you say retail sector
I mean, as far as grocery stores, specialty shops.
So along with doing every one of those shows, there was only one intent in my mind, which was I need to find a store in every single town that I do a show or a farmer's market. So we're in so many stores throughout Windsor, Windsor, London, Kitchener, Stratford. We're in Whole Foods, all the Whole Foods. In Toronto, we're in Longo's. And we're in Longo's and not Loblaws because Longo's is a small family. And this is one of my requirements, right? If I can't actually pick up the phone and talk to the CEO, I really don't want to, not that I don't want to do business, but it's just not the right fit for us. Because when you talk to me and you understand how different this product is, because every single year since I left my company, I kept going back to Greece and modifying the process and making it better and making it colder. And you'll notice the olive oil this year, and every year since, there's been a progression. It's lighter. It's still light and fresh, but it also now has such a ridiculous bite a few seconds later, like 10, 20 seconds, because the antioxidants now are just so high. And so, yeah, we're one of those best kept secrets that people don't realize. We're in a lot of stores and, of course, are online as well.
Okay, that's fantastic. Yeah, and the e-commerce is such a big thing nowadays, and even without COVID, that market is absolutely huge. So, and you were talking. Now, here's a connection that you already know about, and Mark McCune, a guy that learned everything he needs to know about cooking from your dad, Todd Tilson, who owns Tilly's by the Bay in Meaford, and the olive oil all come together in the story I'm about to tell. So this past summer, Todd Tilson, absolutely excited, ecstatic, puts up a picture of himself with Chef Mark McCune holding on to a bottle of the Mark McCune You've seen the picture, of course, the Mark
Yeah.
McEwen olive oil that you bottled for him. And Mark McEwen and his wife became regulars at Todd's restaurant just this past summer when you were allowed to sit and eat in the restaurant. So I just thought, that absolutely so connects up with the Rallis olive oil and the family.
That's such a great story. Absolutely. And, it's amazing how many celebrities have tried our olive oil, from, Woody Harrelson to Sir Paul McCartney have tried it, all because of some of our celebrity friends who have, passed it on to them. And it's amazing. Jen and I are waiting for the day that we actually are watching a movie or a Netflix and we can see our bottle in the background, which would be fantastic. Because, one of the largest companies that we private label for are Mary Ruth Organics out of California, who's the largest organic vegan line of supplements. And so I'm just waiting for the day that it just pops up and we know that it's ours, and that would be fantastic.
And it really is classy packaging. It's, that's basically the square bottle with the rounded edges and the graphics, the font that's used on the bottle as well. And showing the picture here throughout the interview, people know exactly what I'm talking about. It's classic. It really is a great design.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And then from there, we've been, blessed and lucky enough now that, we've started using that same olive oil to make pain medication and supplements, which is, the next chapter of starting from small family restaurant business.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about that now. That was going to be my next question. All right, it doesn't just end with the olive oil. It's not just that. You've got some really exciting things happening and things coming up in the near future.
Yeah, a lot. It's if you get a chance, if you go to our website heartsmartpet.com or even Olive in the Raw, we talk about the story of, especially Heart Smart Pet, how we went down this line of products where, everyone knows CBD and THC. So I went through a very long health journey. My little guy has gone through a very health journey, and it's amazing how now working with a compounding pharmacy group out of a medical center in Texas, we're formulating some incredible stuff, and I have a patent pending on an incredible delivery system for CBD products, but all pain medication as well, including other ones that I really want to work on, because I feel, one of the things that really truly motivates me is just, I hate to see people in pain. And as being an individual who went through that journey, all I want to do is make sure that no one else feels that same pain that I went through. And sorry, Rob, to dominate the conversation, but what's interesting with the olive oil, what we found, because I press so cold and I don't denature that fat molecule itself, it's interesting how the body can absorb it so much quicker because it understands exactly what it is on a molecular level. So we always knew we were making medicine, but now that we're actually truly making medicine, it's become so obvious how different this lipid or fat or olive oil is.
It's got to be, of course, and I'm sorry to hear that your grandparents have passed away, but them having those olive farms in Greece, and then your dad deciding to go in there and take it over. So, how did your dad feel about where this initial idea is going? Is he excited about it, or is he just going about his business getting the olive done?
No, for my dad, it's all about, he is so proud of, Steve and I, he's proud of all his grandkids. This is a man who still every morning wakes up and has coffee with his trees. He walks through the orchards, takes a look at it. I mean, you need to understand there's nothing truly to do right now. Periodically you have to mow the lawn and water the grasses, but he's still there every single day. He's tinkering every single day because he truly loves the connection to the land, to the trees, and what we're doing with it. I feel you could truly feel it in the olive oil when you try it. It tastes, you could taste the love I know that sounds a little corny, but I truly believe that it's the energy that we're all putting into what we do.
You know, and you talk about your dad and his pride and his love of his family, and I know from the conversations and the times that I was able to spend with him, and it was when you and Steve were still in university, and you were taking engineering. And Steve, is he a physiotherapist or chiropractor?
So Steve started as chiropractor, then he got his neurodiplomate, then he was working on his MBA when he decided, you know what, I truly want to practice functional medicine, and he ended up having this huge clinic in Barrie and still being able to go back to school and became a naturopath, which is unbelievable. And now he just practices functional medicine.
That's amazing. And I know how proud your father was of both of you, you know, and I think I even asked him at one point, I said, oh, they don't want to take over the restaurant. And he kind of gave me the impression that maybe he didn't want you to. Like he was pretty proud of the route that you and your brother decided to take, and to hear a parent being that proud and supportive of his sons is just absolutely incredible. And it spoke volumes of your father as well. And
it's tough.
Such a great man.
No, I was going to say, Rob, thank you. And you know, the hardest part with the restaurant, not taking it over or having that one at the beach, because we have this beautiful building. But the hardest part was, this was the decision we made as a family, which was, you know, we're going to focus on creating medicine, and we can help more people this way than we can at the restaurant. And, you know, we had to focus our energy on one thing. And so, unfortunately, the restaurant had to, you know, this is phase 3 now, but I truly love where we're going, and who knows where the grandkids or our kids are going to take it.
And everything happens for a reason. I firmly believe that. And if you take a look at your parents' experience with the restaurant, and then the route that your brother and you decided to take, you as an engineer, your brother in the health field, and you know what? It all connects up to today and the future for Rallis Olive Oil. In my mind, it all makes perfect sense. All of those pieces have come together now for your family.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we only have a minute left. So
yeah.
Jensen, kill me. You know, of course, at oliveintheraw.com, you got to take a look at all of our bath and body and skin products, because the chemistry behind skin products are interesting. And you know, what's awesome is I always use the analogy of our lip balm. So all of it is made with our high antioxidant olive oil. Our lip balm itself, you can buy beeswax for, I'm going to use, say, $5 per kg. Or you can spend $50 a kg if you buy Chatsworth beeswax from actually Chatsworth honey. And when you try our lip balms that actually has local ingredients, it's incredible. It's so night and day. Everything we put in is absolutely, you know, absolutely based on holistic, whole food, plant-based medicine.
Theo Rallis, thank you so much for doing this. It was so nice to see you again. It's been a very, very long time. Please send my best to your dad and to your mom. Absolutely beautiful people. Thank you so much for sharing this story with us, folks. This was Theo Rallis. You know, his family owned Village Square Restaurant in Owensound for so many years, and so great to see you doing so well in your lives. I want to thank producer Mark Perry and Darlene Van Wyck. I'm Rob Leonard. We'll see you next time on Mom and Pop Eateries of Grey Bruce.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Hi, I'm David Sherman, host of Politically Speaking. Join me for my next show, where my guest will be Dwight Burley, mayor of Georgian Bluffs. Politically Speaking on Rogers TV.
With NHL Center Ice, you get a premium ticket to the games you want every night of the season. Catch every key out-of-market matchup